am going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I will acknowledge Suzanne Slack here, who's sitting in on behalf of Superintendent Alisea, and of course we have Larry and Chuck here as well. So as a first order of business, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the September 27th, 2018 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. We did have a special meeting on October 11th, 2018, and we have minutes for that meeting as well, and I'll entertain a motion for those.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, next up, we have a report from the Secretary. Joe.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
As we discussed last meeting, at the special meeting, we'd like to move the regularly scheduled next JSCB meeting from November 15th to November 29th.
Okay.
I think it works out better with the payment schedule and with the Thanksgiving holiday.
Sounds good.
We will send out the appropriate notices. And within your packet, there's new correspondence from Mr. Giardine.
Okay.
And I'm pleased to report that the Common Council approved the JSCB bonding authorization at their last meeting on Monday.
Right. Great.
And finally, in case anyone missed it, the Boston Red Sox won the second game of the World Series last night.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Joe? Okay, then we will move on to a report from our program manager. I don't see Chris here.
Sean Griffin's filling in.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, my name is Sean Griffin. I'm filling in for Chris today.
Great.
Just to give you guys an update on our procurement, we are still on schedule with Corcoran for going out to bid the first part of November here, and then followed up by Nottingham in the first quarter of next year. Finance-wise, like Joe mentioned, we got the Common Council approval for the Tranche 2A borrowing. Earlier this week, we will be bringing Nottingham to you guys in November for approval once we receive state ed approval, which we should receive in a few weeks here. That pretty much wraps up the finance piece there. Project design, we took our last project, Henniger, to state ed on Monday. We will follow up with an addendum here in the next couple weeks, and then continue the approval there. So we anticipate approvals by the end of the year for the rest of the projects. Okay. The current projects in Tranche 1 that are under construction, still ongoing at Bellevue, Ed Smith, Fraser, Grant, and Huntington. Looking to start construction with some exterior masonry cleaning over at Blodgett early November, and then moving into some interior renovations.
Okay.
As I mentioned, Tranche 2 design, we're pretty much complete with those, with the exception of some addendums going into SED, and we should have those complete by the end of the year here. Critical issues, still waiting on some feedback from the Comptroller's office regarding our Tranche 2 borrowings. So we've been in contact with them, and hopefully we'll receive their authorization by the middle of December or January at the latest to line up with the site of borrowing for Tranche 2A. Market conditions, we're continuing to monitor that. We've got an outreach meeting with a bunch of GCs scheduled for November 6th at Corcoran, where we're trying to lay out the plan of how we're going to bid the next 6 projects, and then try and pique the interest. And that's open to subs as well. We did have a safety meeting yesterday with a bunch of the current project staff and team on the current projects, we did receive a good turnout, and so seems to be some positive outcome. Fowler, we did meet with the geotech earlier this week. He does not have his formal report ready for us. It does look like we will be able to save some time on the preload duration there. We may not have to do some of that deep dynamic compaction. We may have to do what they call a wicking system, where we drill a bunch of holes and then we let the water kind of seep up through the holes and then out. So that will shorten some of the duration for compressing the peat, but we haven't finalized the timeline on that yet, so we're working with the CM on the schedule and the cost of that. We are going to State Ed next week to ask for additional aid for the Fowler Field, and once we've met with them, we'll come back and give you guys a report on how that went.
Okay.
Any questions? It pretty much sums up.
Any questions?
Would we want the engineer to present soon? Thank you. Would we want the engineer to present what he's found before the next board meeting?
Yes, we did speak with the engineer, and he's willing to do that. Give a presentation of his findings, and we found some areas had a little less peat than we initially thought. Some areas had a little bit more. Really define the area where it is. So it's, but yes, that's something we can do.
Thank you.
Is that report going to be complete before the meeting with SCD?
I'm not positive on that. I anticipate by the end of next week, but we're meeting with them on Wednesday.
Okay.
So it probably won't be complete, but we're working with the construction manager and the engineer to kind of define and refine the scope so that we can get a good estimate of what we're asking for.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Okay, thanks for the report.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we are going to review our financial statements.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hopefully you all have the packet in front of you of the financial statements. I'm going to start down on page 5, just to keep it simple. Just a couple of the highlights of this month's financial statements were just the payments for and disbursements made for approved payment applications in July and August. And also we just had a little bit of investment income as well. But I'll cover all of that as we get farther into the statement. Starting on page 5, we have the statement of net position. And at the end of August, the JSCB fund had a total of $118.7 million between both Phase 1 and Phase 2 cash. The capital asset amount reflects all closed Phase 1 projects in the total of $162.2 million. That includes the closed Phase 1 projects as well as construction in progress for Phase 2 projects. Compared to the July statements, cash decreased by $8.5 million due to the payments, and also increased by $144,000 due to investment income in the form of interest. Total liabilities at the close of August was $227 million, and that includes the bond anticipation note of $15 million for Phase 2 projects, as well as bonds payable for Phase 1 projects. So at the end of August, the unaudited total net position is $53.8 million. I'm going to turn now to page 6, which is the statement of sources and expenditures. Relatively lean here. We have our earnings to date, which would be July and August, would be the total interest of $276,439 earned in the Phase 2 accounts, as well as our capital outlay of $9.6 million. Obviously, there's no activity for Phase 1. We will see some upcoming next month when we make the debt service payments. And on page 7, this is our cash flow statement. The report represents a cash basis for the sources and disbursements flowing through all the JSCB accounts. You'll see here, it's just a reiteration of what I just said on the previous pages. Our total for expenditures was $8.5 million for this month, as well as the $144,892 in interest income. We are looking at the total of, at the end of the year, a total of $64 million left in cash for these particular projects. This would be the first 7 projects. And on page 8, this is a revenue and expense inception to date. This shows the total that we've spent to date since the start of the project. Phase 1 shows a total sources of $144 million, and Phase 2, our sources to date are $132 million. Phase 1 shows total expenditures of $141 million, and Phase 2, $23.9 million. Any questions? Good.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like we have some resolutions, Joe.
Yes, several resolutions this morning, beginning with resolution number 73, which would authorize the monthly payment to Landon and Ryan.
Okay. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 74 would authorize the monthly payment to Turner Construction.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 75 authorizes the payment to the various contractors working under the Tranche 1 financing.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 76 authorizes payments to the various contractors working under the Tranche 2 financing.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 77 would authorize the purchase of our directors and directors and officers liability insurance for the year 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And finally, resolution number 78 would authorize a minor contract amendment to the Turner Program Managing Contract to account for increased cost for software and travel.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And that concludes our resolutions for today.
Anything else you want to say about the Red Sox, Joe?
On to LA, and we're going to wrap it up in 4.
All right. Any other business to come before the board? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks.